Alright, in this video we're going to talk about the cinematic titles pack from Editor Titles, and this is a really cool pack of 50, smooth cinematic titles that have accent colors, the anim engine built in, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So let's take a look inside of DaVinci Resolve. We're going to start with Cinematic Title 1. So up in my Effects tab, come down to Titles, WippTemplates, and then you can find Cinematic Titles. I can just drag this onto the timeline. I can make this as long or as short as I want. And when I hit play, it's going to animate on, it's going to just be kind of zooming into the screen, and then it's going to animate off at the end. Pretty cool already. First at the top, we have the title position. This is going to be in all of the tools, and that way we can move it around. If we have the Fusion overlay turned on down in the bottom left, we can actually just grab it on the screen and move this around. I'm just going to double click on this, set it back to the default, and then when I hit play, everything's going to update. But anyways, in the text dropdown, we can change any of the text. We have our alignment controls. So let's say I do cinematic, title, and then I put pack on the second line. I can use these anchor controls to change how that aligns. And if I put all that on one line, I can enable wrapping as well. So that way I can have it automatically break to different lines. It's really useful if you have a bunch of text. And I can still use those alignment controls to make sure everything looks pretty. And then down here we have the accent color. So we can select a word just by moving this back and forth and shrinking or growing this range, or just turning it off entirely. But that way we can give a certain word in this a different color just to help make it stand out. Now in all of these titles, we have a drop shadow that you can enable and customize. We also have the anim engine, so you can turn animations on or off. You can change how long they actually take to animate on and off. And then we also have the easing curves right down here. Under the middle animations, this is what's going to give us that smooth movement throughout the entire clip. So I can change the scale direction from none, which totally turns it off. We could have up so that way it scales in, or down so that way it scales out. And with all of that, we can choose the anchor that it actually pivots from. So if I say bottom left, it's going to add the pivot point right down to the bottom, and it's going to look like it's scaling from there. So that's really nice if you were to put this down into the corner of the screen. That way it's not going to accidentally scale off the screen at some point. We also have the scale intensity just to choose how fast this is actually going. So you don't want to crank that too much. It gets to be a bit too intense, a little cheesy if you're going for the cinematic look. But usually right around the default or just under look really good. All right, let's take a look at cinematic title 15. This is offset fade blur. And I just want to point out this offset functionality. So first off, it can go a little bit slower with the rendering, and that's because it's using a follower modifier in the background. But what it's doing, instead of animating everything at the same time, it just slightly offsets its timing, and we can change that in the inspector. So for the letter delay, I can drag this up or bring this closer together, and you can see it's gonna customize how much of a difference there is between these different letters. But with this one, I can change the size of the blur, I can change the scale of the slide, and I can also change the direction that everything slides from. So I can have this coming at a slight angle. You can see all of that's just going to animate on just like so. So that pretty much wraps up cinematic titles. It's a really easy pack, and there's just a bunch of options that you can use. So if you have any questions about it, just let me know.